everyone, it's Vicki from Minerva. So I'm here today to share with you the top 10 best-selling sewing patterns on Minerva in 2022 from the big four pattern companies. So we always find it really interesting at the end of the year to have a look back, see what the best sellers were and what you guys were inspired by and what you're really enjoying sewing that year. So I've got the patterns here to share with you. Some are no surprise at all, but there is an odd surprise in there. So let's get stuck in. So first up we have a pattern from McCalls, which is number 7969. And this one, I think most people in the sewing community have probably seen this pattern. It's absolutely iconic and I personally think it's fabulous. I love this pattern. My probably favourite view is view A. So that crossover neckline, which creates a V-neck, the gathered skirt, but for me it's all about that sleeve on view A, this big sleeve that comes in at a 3/4 length at a slight angle, which I just think is, oh, the cut of that is beautiful. But having said that, the other views, I mean there's C, B and D, all that have different sleeves, different lengths of the skirt, frills at the bottom, so many options. I think it's just such a good value pattern, and if you look at all the versions that have been made of this pattern on Minerva, it just looks fabulous on everyone. It looks good in so many different fabrics. It's perfect for our Minerva exclusive viscose challis because it really works with the drape of the fabric, and yeah, it's just a winning pattern. To me, no surprise that that one was in the top 10. So next we have Simplicity 8172, and this pattern is actually one that we featured in a kit in 2022, so that's probably contributed to the fact that it's been one of our best sellers. And I do think it's just such a great wearable pattern is this one. I kind of see it being between a jacket and a robe, because you would make it in quite a soft drapey fabric, and it really, the sleeves, the shape of the hemline, it really suits a soft drapey fabric. And the kits that we actually put together, we were inspired by View C, which is the version that's on the envelope, and we combined two different fabrics together to make one garment. And it just looks, I think it looks fabulous combining fabrics, and it gives you that opportunity to be creative in how you put different prints and colours together. If you haven't seen the kits, do check them out because I think they're really inspiring, and being able to see the final versions made up by some of our wonderful brand ambassadors, they just all look amazing. So yeah, a great pattern, that one, and yeah, again, no surprise really that that's been in our top 10. So the next one, which maybe is a little bit of a surprise, this one is from Simplicity, and this is 8044, and this is actually a toy pattern. So in the pattern you get 3 different views. So one is to make a little dog, one is to make a little rabbit, and one is to make a teddy bear. And they're just so cute. I mean, we do sell lots of different teddy bear and toy patterns at Minerva, but this one was the winner. And I think you've just got so many options on the pattern. You can make it in lots of different fabrics, so you can use like felt or fleece or fur if you want sort of like a soft cosy kind of texture, or you can use like plain cottons, poplins, calico, lots and lots of different fabrics you can choose that will all give a different look. And you know, if you're looking for something a bit different to dressmaking, just something, you know, something different, sort of challenge yourself, I think that's a really good pattern, and you know, what a lovely gift it will make for someone. That'd be really lovely. Next up we have, so this is another Simplicity pattern. This one is 8640, and this one is a dress that's designed for woven fabrics. And for me, what makes this a really cool pattern is the shape of the skirt. So it comes out quite a lot. It's quite an exaggerated curve, and then it sort of comes back in and has like little cutout details at the sides, and then these really lovely pockets that have gathered details on them on the front. And it's just the way that then hangs on the body. It's such an unusual cut. And really, yeah, there's something about it that just makes this pattern really special, I think. It's a very simple round neckline. There's a sleeveless option or a sleeved option, which are just quite simple sleeves. So everything is about the drape of the skirt and those really lovely patch pockets. Yeah, I think that's a real winner. And if you love that kind of, you know, slightly irregular, unusual kind of style, then that could be the pattern for you. Next up is Simplicity 8910. Now this is another dress pattern, and this one comes with 3 views on the pattern, all of which have a V neckline. It's quite a wide V neckline. It's a really pretty shape, is that one. So yeah, all of them come with a V neckline. Then there's a sleeveless option or a sleeved option, and if you look at the sleeve on this one, it's a really lovely shape, how it comes in at the cuff there. And it has really quite big pockets, which I think is always a plus. But the star of the show for me in this pattern is the curved seam that sits under the bust and all the pleats of fabric that go into that to form the skirt. So the skirt is quite full. Again, it would suit a really a really drapey woven fabric. Again, our Minerva viscose challis would be fabulous for this pattern, but you could also make it in like a chambray or a linen or a poplin, and that would give a completely different look and it would hold the shape a little bit more. So yeah, another great pattern there from Simplicity. Next up we have a Burda pattern, and this is actually a menswear pattern, which is great to see that there's a menswear pattern in the top 10. So this one is number 6718, and it's a sweater pattern and a hoodie pattern. So there's 2 views. View A is the hoodie that has a pocket on the front, a drawstring through the hood, and it has a rib around the waist and the cuff. And then view B is very similar, except it doesn't have the pocket, it has the rib detail, but around the neckline, instead of a hood, it has a very sort of wide, like sort of slouchy neckline that I think sits really well. It looks really great on the pattern envelope. And I think you could, if you wanted to put the pocket on either view, you could, or you could leave it off. I think that's just, it's a great pattern. You're going to get loads of wear from it. It would be great in thicker, cosy sort of knit fabrics like the loop back French terry from our Minerva exclusive range that I'm wearing. That would be great for this pattern, but you could also make it in a textured knit or a ponte. Loads of different options for that one. Next up we have, so this is another Burda pattern. This one is 6573, and I think this one became popular around the time of the sewing bee because there was a pattern very similar featured on the sewing bee, and I think what's fabulous about this pattern is the width and the fullness of the trousers themselves, and the high waist detail, and then especially on view A, it has sort of like 3 button details, 3 buttons as a detail on the high waist, and it just looks super stylish. I think that's a fabulous pattern, and I can totally see why that's been a winner. So the next pattern we have, this is a new look pattern, number 6163. And this one is just, it's such a good value pattern. There's so much included in the one pattern, and I think you could very easily create a capsule wardrobe from this. I think if you like one of the styles on the pattern, you're quite likely to like everything on the pattern because they all have like a similar sort of style and vibe. So view A is quite a simple jacket with a little stand-up collar, darts to create some shape, a full length sleeve, and the bit that I love is that it has slits up the side, which I think that's just it's very simple but a very lovely feature. View B is a very simple top, very pretty shape to the neckline, a dart for the fit, and again it sort of echoes the jacket in that it has a little slit at the side, which I think that looks lovely and would look really lovely worn under the jacket. View C is a very, very simple skirt in fact. So this has a waistband, darts and a side zip. It's like an A-line, quite a gentle A-line sort of shape. So I think it will be easy to sew for one, but it would look great teamed under that jacket with the top. Just yeah, a great basic really to have in your wardrobe and pattern to have in your stash. And then view D is a trouser. So again, it has a waistband, it has a side zip, and they're really just quite a simple trouser. But I just think you would get loads of wear out of them, and to be able to team it with the top and the jacket from the same pattern, it's just such great value. And yeah, so many options that you can make from this one pattern. So yeah, I'm not surprised again that's been a top seller. Next we have, I love this pattern. This is Simplicity 8875, and it's just the prettiest dress, and there are just so many options in the one pattern. So they all have a V-neck line, which I do love a V-neck line. I think that's a really pretty look, and they all have sort of like a diagonal seam just under the bust, and into that seam are little gathers, which is what creates the shape, which is just, it's a really lovely detail, but it's functional as well to create the shape. Now on views A, B and C, they all have like a ruffle detail around the hem that splits up the front, and the ruffle itself is placed into a seam that again sort of goes on an angle like this, which echoes that seam under the bust, which I think is a really lovely detail. I think if you were going to make one of the views that had this ruffle at the bottom, a soft woven drapey fabric, something like our viscose chalice, or a crepe, or a georgette even, would be really lovely, as it would really swish and move and just hang beautifully. Now view A specifically has buttons down the front, and it has a full sleeve that draws in at the cuff there, which is really pretty, and I think makes this pattern quite versatile, because you could wear the long sleeve one when it's a little bit colder, and then the shorter sleeve ones perhaps when it's hotter or through summer. View C, I particularly like this one. So on this one, into that V-neck line, it has a sort of like frill detail that's been added that just goes over the top of your arm, which is pretty. And yeah, I just think that's such a pretty look. I think I really love a flutter sleeve, and this kind of gives me a similar feel to that, even though it's not a sleeve. But that pretty ruffle round your neckline, I think that's really lovely. I would imagine that dress made up, and I would wear that to like a summer wedding, or I was going to say a special occasion, but you know, why not wear something like that every day? A gorgeous dress in a gorgeous fabric. And then view D. That one, so that has the V-neck line again, but there is no ruffle around the bottom. That's just a straight normal hem. But what does make it special is a beautiful flutter sleeve that I really think suits the overall sort of romantic, pretty girly vibes of that pattern. Absolutely love it. If you haven't seen this one before and you love sewing a dress, I definitely recommend checking that one out. And then lastly on the list, this is McCalls 7948, and this one again was featured in the Sewing Bee, and since then just has rocketed. Everyone has, so many people have loved this pattern, and I can see why. It's definitely a winner. So you have 4 different views on this pattern, taking it from quite a simple dress to a dress that has quite a lot of sort of volume and gathers and frills. So view A is the simplest version, so that has a short sleeve, simple round neckline, a seam at the waist, and the skirt section has 2 pleats that go into that waistline. So quite simple, but I think it's a really lovely one. I love the shape that it creates, a little bit fuller in the skirt. Really, really lovely pattern. View B is the same bodice and skirt, but they've added a sleeve, and that sleeve has a ruffle frill around the edge, which is just so pretty. And oh yeah, for quite a simple dress, I think that's really lovely. It just sort of takes it up a notch with that frill on the sleeve for me, and it just gives it a super pretty look. Now view C is quite different, where this one is a sleeveless dress, again with that simple round neckline, but the skirt is very different. So it has 2 tier panels, and each panel is gathered and then sewn into the seam. So it creates quite a full look, and you know, tier dresses are just so popular, and that is such a good one. And then view D is the same as view C, except it has a sleeve added with a frill round the edge of that sleeve, which that's the version that is shown on the envelope, actually sewn up. And you can see on the envelope they've sewn it in a cotton fabric, so it really like kind of holds the shape of the skirt, creates a really lovely silhouette, really beautiful. But I do think it would also be really nice made in a soft drapey woven fabric, so it would hang straighter, but the fullness in the skirt would swish as you moved, and I think it would just feel lovely, lovely to wear. Yeah, another absolute winner from McCalls there. So that's all 10 patterns. So let me know, have you sewn any of these before? Do you plan to sew any? Are there any that you really like? Are there any surprises in there for you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, we will tag all these products that I've talked about today below this video, so if you want to go and check them out, all the details will be there. And as well, you can actually look on the product pages on Minerva at what other people have made using these patterns. It's just fantastic to see you know, the same pattern made and sewn by different people of all different sewing levels. They often share their thoughts on how the pattern was to sew, how they found the fit, what fabric they chose. It's great to see the same pattern on so many different people, in so many different fabrics. Super inspiring, and I'm sure it'll give you loads of ideas on what you could make with these patterns. So I hope you liked the video. Please do give us a like and a follow if you did, and I look forward to seeing you next time.